Were you emotionally abused as a child? You might not even realize the full impact it's had on your life. Today, we're unpacking emotional abuse, toxic parenting, and how awareness is the first step towards healing. Okay, let's go.
Okay, hey, this is Francisca, and this is my mid-crisis life. Okay, tell me, were you a child of emotional abuse? Were you a child of coercive control? Were you a child of mental abuse? It's a good question, right? Let's look at what the definition of these things is. Looked it up. So what's it say? So psychological abuse is an insidious form of abuse in which perpetrators employ a wide range of personalized psychological tactics to manipulate and frighten a person, distorting their thoughts and changing their sense of self in order to maintain control. Yeah? It involves regular and deliberate use of a range of words and non-physical actions used with the purpose to manipulate, hurt, weaken, or frighten a person mentally and emotionally, and or distort, confuse, or influence a person's thoughts and actions within their everyday life, changing their sense of self and harming their well-being. Yeah? What is emotional abuse? Emotional abuse includes humiliating or constantly criticizing a child, threatening, shouting at a child, or calling them names, making the child the subject of jokes or using sarcasm to hurt a child, blaming, scapegoating, making a child perform degrading acts. And by that, everybody thinks that that means, like, I don't know, locking them in a room and, I don't know, making them scrub the floor with a toothbrush. I mean, these things happen, right? But even degrading acts, when I think of that, I think of things like, I don't know, calling them out in front of their friends, you know, and making them do things that you know that are going to embarrass them in front of their friends while they're there. Stuff like that, right? Not recognizing a child's own individuality or trying to control their lives. Pushing a child too hard, not recognizing their limitations. Exposing a child to upsetting events or situations like domestic abuse or drug taking, failing to promote a child's social development, not allowing them to have friends, persistently ignoring them, being absent, manipulating a child, never saying anything kind or expressing any positive feelings or congratulating a child on their successes, never showing any emotions in interactions with a child, which is also known as emotional neglect. My phone's about to run. Okay, so tell me, does any of that sound like you? Does any of that sound like anything that you went through, parenting that you experienced throughout your childhood? I don't know, right? Only you know. What I would say though is I think that ultimately only one of two things happens when you have emotionally abusive, coercively controlling, psychologically harmful parenting. You either sink or you swim. It's as simple as that, right? And I think when you sink, what happens is that you become that abuser. You become that sarcastic parent. You become that person who's emotionally unavailable to your children, and you become the victim. You know, why did this happen to me? Why do bad things happen to me? Why does nobody care about me? Why does nobody ever think about me? Right? Because you've been around people that never cared and never thought about you. Or you swim, right? And you figure out a way to understand the people around you better. You figure out a way to modify your own behavior in a positive way. And you start to generate through that a higher level of empathy, a higher level of emotional intelligence, so that you don't treat people the same way that you got treated, right? However, so this is what happened to me recently, and I've made a whole video about it, so I'm not going to tell the whole story here. But basically, I finally called my mum out for her emotionally abusive behaviour towards me, towards my kids, for her being that victim, being emotionally unavailable, her being sarcastic all the time, her constantly thinking about herself and her own needs and why nobody cared about her, and then feeling vindicated and feeling justified in treating people really poorly, really unkindly, because of this constant internal rhetoric that she's got going on in her head, right? And essentially, we were asked to leave the house. We were kicked out. We were told that we couldn't be there anymore. We were told to pack our stuff up. We were told to give our keys back. We were told to fuck off, get the fuck out. And essentially that happened because I finally stood up to my mum. I finally said no to the emotional abuse. I finally said, no, this is not happening, right? And the thing is that she just could not handle that. She could not find a way to process or transmute what she feels like is an attack on her, because she is programmed to perceive life from her own point of view, from her own subjective viewpoint, from her own narrow, blinkered perspective, because she is the one who sank. She is the victim. And because of that, she is now the abuser, right? But I tell you, the fucked up thing about that whole situation, the most fucked up thing about that situation is that afterwards, all I could think about was my mum. All I could think about was she okay? How was she feeling? Did she need anything? Yeah. What I could maybe do to make things better, what I could say to make her feel better. Because I knew that she was going to be struggling. I knew that she was going to be struggling, and she wouldn't even be aware that she was struggling because she would be projecting everything outwards. But her heart would be breaking. And all I could think about was her and my responsibility towards her. And it's because it's like this book, right? The Drama of the Gifted Child, where it talks about if you are empathetic and if you are intelligent and if you're emotionally intelligent, you begin, I mean, all kids, right? But more so when you have a parent who is emotionally abusive, you begin to tune yourselves in. We begin to tune ourselves in to our abuser's needs, right? So just like Stockholm syndrome, yeah, we become so well attuned to not causing any stress, not causing any upset, not causing any negative repercussions from this person, that we're able to predict their behavior before it even happens. We're looking for little signs to know whether or not that person is gonna explode, or like how they're going to react to a certain situation. We're looking at their body language and their tone of voice and the look in their eye. And we're constantly measuring and assessing and reassessing what this person is doing and what that could possibly mean for us. And then we start to modify our behavior because we don't want those negative repercussions. We want essentially to have proximity, to have closeness, whether that be physically, emotionally, metaphorically, theoretically. We want proximity to our parents, right? So it gets to the point that like our whole body, everything that we do, all our actions are modified to keep that person happy so that we can try and stay close to them in some sort of way, right? And it's funny that even when this person has thrown me out on the streets with my kids, didn't call me, didn't check in on me, didn't ask if I was okay for an entire week and a half until I went back and got my stuff, and even then didn't ask if I was okay, even though that was the case, I'm still concerned about her because this is how I've been conditioned to be. This is who I've been conditioned to be. And it got me to thinking, right? How do we get out of this? How do I get out of this? How do we, people who are affected in this way, if you recognize any of this behavior, how do we get out of it, right? So, honestly, I don't really know that there is a way out. I don't know that I will ever stop. I don't know that I will ever stop putting my mum's needs before my own, because essentially that is how I've been conditioned to behave. And I was conditioned to behave that way before I can even remember. These things were conditioned into me before I was even consciously aware. Before I knew that any of it was happening, before I knew that I didn't want any of it to happen. And it's happening on such a subconscious level, that I don't think that I will ever not feel guilty or responsible for my mum's needs or her feelings or her behaviors or her actions, and want to like modify my own behavior to avoid having negative repercussions from her. And in that way, she's always going to have control, right? However, what I would say that I think that awareness is the key. And I always say that. I always say that. I don't mean awareness is key as in like it's really helpful. I mean, awareness is the key. It is the key to everything. It is the key to change. It is the thing that unlocks the door. It is the thing that unlocks the lock, unlocks the bolt, whatever you want to call it, right? Awareness is the key, right? Because in just knowing that I'm doing it, even though it's frustrating, it gives me the choice, right? It gives me the choice about whether I want to engage or not. And there may be times, right, that I don't see that I've made that choice, or that I've made that choice unconsciously, that I don't catch myself until after the event, right? And I'm like, oh, fuck, I've done that thing again. But the thing is that awareness of doing it creates a level of frustration in itself, right? You can't avoid it anymore. You can't ignore it anymore. You can't displace it anymore. You can't distort it anymore. You can't deny it anymore. You're seeing yourself doing it all the time. And as frustrating as that is, what happens is that the more that you see it afterwards, the more that you become aware, and the more that process goes from seeing like, oh, fucking hell, I've done that thing again, haven't I? Didn't even realize I was doing it. Done it again. That's really annoying. I'm very annoyed at myself. It goes from doing that to, maybe being able to notice that you're doing it in the moment. Oh, fucking hell, I'm doing that thing again. Like, literally, I'm doing it right now. And it may be the case that you can't do anything about it in that moment in time, but you're noticing it in the moment rather than after the event. And then through that awareness, that can hopefully go to like, oh, okay, I'm about to do that thing. I can see myself, I'm about to do it. And even if you can't stop yourself, that awareness again creates a frustration. It's not, oh, I just did it and I didn't even know I was going to do it. And like, oh, right, okay, I'm doing it right in this moment, but I can't stop myself. And then, oh, I'm about to do it, but actually I can't stop myself, to then being able to be like, oh, I'm about to do it and I might be able to do something before that happens, you know? Because I don't really think that I can ever go back and heal or change or recondition. Not even recondition, because that is reconditioning, right? I can't take the conditioning away. It's there, it's imprinted. And anybody that's been through parenting like this will know. I'm a 40-year-old woman and I got thrown out of my mum's house on the street with my children and sat and cried for my mum that night. Sat and worried for my mum that night. So I don't think it's ever something that's going to change. But as I say, with that awareness, hopefully it can go from, I didn't even know that I was doing it, to, oh shit, I did it again, all the way back to maybe being able to do something before you take that step, before you have that thought, before you take that action, before you, I don't know, treat yourself in that way, before you modify your behavior in a way that's toxic, in a way that's unhealthy, you know, in a way that's distorted and that isn't really about you. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, I guess I would say I would challenge you to have a think about if any of this rings true, if any of those behaviors, if any of those parenting styles ring true to you, and you think, Rod, actually, I experienced a lot of that. And then you're beginning to see now, or you've already seen that there's patterns of behavior that are unhealthy. I would challenge you to start really holding that in your awareness, which probably is going to be really uncomfortable, really frustrating, really annoying. But you need that irritation to be able to move. You need that discomfort in order to be able to move. Yeah, try and see what happens. I mean, you may blow up your relationship and get thrown out of your house with your children. But hey, you got to be happy, right? So yeah, anyway, something that I am grateful for. You know what? Quite simply, I think I would just say that I'm grateful for awareness. As painful as it is, as raw as it feels, as uncomfortable and distressing as it can be, I would rather live in that awareness and have the capacity to change than live in a pretend reality where I'm in pain anyway all the time, but pretending that I'm not. Nah, got no time for that. So yeah, I challenge you to put yourself in that position and get to a point where you're grateful for it. Okay, that's it.
If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you recognized patterns in your own life from childhood conditioning? Drop a comment below. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep exploring healing with me.